So just imagine for a second that you are trying to learn a new language, right? But this particular language is so inherently rhythmic and so melodic that people who hear it universally describe it as sweet.
Right, which is just a beautiful way to describe a language.
Totally. And now imagine a language where expressing sadness doesn't actually involve branding yourself with that emotion. Like,
Yeah.
you don't say, I am sad. Instead, the literal translation is, my heart is not well.
Yeah. It completely reframes the human experience, doesn't it? I mean, you are no longer your sadness. Your sadness is just this temporary condition of your heart.
Exactly.
And when you start pulling apart the mechanics of how a culture communicates like that, you realize it's not just a different way of speaking, it's a profoundly different way of feeling and, moving through the physical world.
And that profound shift is exactly what we're getting into today. So, welcome to today's deep dive into Easily Learn Bengali, a beginner's friendly guide by MD Abdul Shanto.
It's a great book.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission today is to give you a high-level, practical overview of Bengali. We're going to demystify its unique sentence structure, break down how the sounds actually work in your mouth, and highlight the incredible cultural warmth that's just woven directly into everyday interactions.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this right now and suddenly dreading some dry, dusty grammar lecture, you can totally relax.
Oh yeah, please do.
Because the approach we are unpacking today is specifically designed to bypass all those overwhelming academic hurdles. It jumps straight into the practical human side of the language.
Right. The stuff you actually use.
Exactly. It's about building a bridge to millions of speakers, engaging with this rich poetic history, and honestly, learning how to navigate a bustling market to get a really great cup of tea.
I mean, I am definitely here for the tea. But I do have to admit, whenever I've looked at the Bengali script in the past, my brain just completely hits a brick wall.
I'm sure. It's intimidating.
It is. It's stunningly beautiful, with these elegant sweeping curves and that continuous line running across the top of the words. But to my untrained eye, it looks completely impenetrable. Like, if I'm going to learn to speak this, do I just spend the next 6 months just memorizing calligraphy?
See, that is the exact anxiety that stops so many people before they even begin. And what is so refreshing about the methodology we are looking at today is that it gives you permission to just completely ignore the script at the start.
Wait, really? Just skip the alphabet entirely?
Yeah, for a beginner, absolutely. It's totally counterintuitive, but the recommendation is clear. Do not try to master the alphabet right away.
Okay, that is a huge relief. But then how do you learn the words?
You rely on phonetic transliteration, so reading the Bengali words written out in English letters just to get comfortable with the sounds first. Because, here's the secret. Bengali has 11 vowels and 39 consonants.
Which sounds like a lot.
It does sound like a lot, yeah. But they are largely just new visual symbols for sounds your mouth already knows how to make.
Okay, so it's kind of like swapping out the physical keycaps on your computer keyboard. The underlying mechanism, like the way you type, the way your mouth pushes air, is a system you already know how to operate.
Yes.
You're just hitting a key that looks a little different, but produces a familiar result on the screen.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The mechanism is mostly identical. Because Bengali is incredibly phonetic. I mean, unlike English, which is full of bizarre traps.
Right, like where read and read are spelled the exact same way.
Exactly. But they sound entirely different depending on whether you're talking about yesterday or today. Bengali doesn't really do that. It's consistent. If you know the sound a letter makes, you can read the word.
I love consistency. That makes things so much easier. So if I'm swapping out these keycaps, what are some of the sounds I'm already familiar with?
Well, the vowels are remarkably straightforward. You have a sound written as a lie, which is just the ah sound you make when you say father.
Okay, father. Got it.
Right. Then there is an I sound, which is the sharp E you use in the word see, and a U, which is the deep oo sound in food.
Okay, I can definitely do father, see, and food. That feels very manageable. But what about those 39 consonants? There have to be some curveballs in there, right?
Yeah, there are a few nuanced mechanics to learn for sure. Most are familiar, like a basic E sound for kite, but then you encounter something like the retroflex ta.
Retroflex, what does that mean?
Yeah, it sounds technical, but it's all about where you place your tongue. So to make the English ta sound, your tongue usually taps right behind your upper teeth.
Right.
But to make the Bengali ta, you have to actually curl the tip of your tongue backward, slightly toward the roof of your mouth, and strike the hard palate.
Okay, let me try that. Ta, ta, ta.
Oh, wow. It feels almost like a very subtle drum beat inside my mouth. It's a harder, thicker sound.
Exactly. You feel the physical difference. And that brings us to the other major mechanical shift, which is aspiration.
Meaning breath. Yeah, the puff of air. A really common beginner mistake is ignoring the breathiness required for certain consonants. Take the Bengali word for good, which is balo. It starts with a BH sound.
Alo.
Right. But it's not just a flat bellow like a bouncy ball. You have to actively push a puff of air out from your diaphragm right as your lips part.
Ah,
If you hold your hand in front of your mouth, you should actually feel the breath hit your skin when you say ballo. If you drop that breath, you lose the softness and the accuracy of the language entirely.
oh, wow. So if you're constantly pushing these soft puffs of air out and using these deeply resonant sounds from the roof of your mouth, is that physical mechanism why the language is famous for sounding so sweet?
That is exactly the phonetic reason, yeah. It's the synergy of those soft, aspirated sounds, the BHS and DHS and KH, combined with a naturally undulating intonation.
So it doesn't have those hard stops.
Right. It lacks the harsh, guttural stops that you find in languages like German or Arabic. The words tend to flow into one another, which gives it that characteristic sweetness.
Okay, so I am feeling much better about making the sounds. I've got my keycaps swapped, I'm curling my tongue, I'm breathing out. But if the sounds are this melodic, how do we actually string them together to build a thought? Because I assume it's not just a one-to-one swap with English sentence structure.
Oh, definitely not. It requires a pretty big shift in cognitive logic. Let's look at the basic architectural blueprint of a sentence.
Okay, lay it on me.
In English, we use a subject, then a verb, then an object,
That's up me.
SVO. So if you want to talk about your dinner, you say, I eat rice. The action is the bridge right in the middle.
Right, it connects me to the thing I'm doing.
But Bengali operates on a subject, object, verb structure, SOV. The action is always the anchor at the very end of the thought. So you wouldn't say, I eat rice. You would say, I rice eat, which is ami hat kai.
Mami hot kai. I rice eat. Hold on, that puts an incredible amount of suspense on the verb.
It does.
Like, if the action is at the very end, I don't actually know what you're doing with the rice until the last possible second. You could be cooking the rice, throwing the rice, buying the rice. Does that change how a conversation actually feels to a native speaker?
That is a phenomenal observation, and it touches on this really fascinating area of linguistic theory. When you place the object before the verb, you are establishing the physical context first.
Okay, so you're setting the stage.
Exactly. You bring the rice into the room, conceptually, before you introduce the action of eating. It grounds the conversation in tangible reality first, rather than prioritizing the action.
That makes so much sense. It's like setting up the props on a stage before the actors are allowed to start moving around.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
But what if there isn't an action? Like, what if I just want to say something exists? Because conjugating the verb to be can be an absolute nightmare in languages like French or Spanish.
This is where beginners usually breathe a massive sigh of relief. Bengali offers an incredibly clean, almost binary system for existence.
Oh.
Yeah, if you want to say something is present or exists, you just use the word ache. If you want to express that it isn't there or doesn't exist, you use nay.
Wait, no intense conjugation tables? Just ache and nay.
That's literally it. If you want to say the book is here, it's simply boy ache. And the book isn't here is boy nay.
Oh, wow. That is so elegant. Just a simple toggle switch for existence.
It is. But where that structure gets really profound is when you apply it to human emotion, which actually brings us back to what you mentioned at the very start of our deep dive.
About the heart not being well.
Right. In English, we internalize our states of being. We say, I am hungry. We use the verb to be to identify as the hunger.
Yeah, I take ownership of it. It becomes who I am in that moment.
But if you try a direct, literal translation of that into Bengali, it fails completely. Instead, to express hunger, you say, Amar kide piace. This translates literally to, my hunger has come.
My hunger has come.
Ah,
Wow. That entirely shifts the power dynamic between me and my physical needs.
doesn't it?
Yeah, if my hunger has come, it's an external visitor. It's just a state that's passing through my house, not the foundation of the house itself.
Precisely. It externalizes the sensation, and you see this repeatedly in the grammar. You don't have a fever. A fever has come to you.
Oh, interesting.
And you don't say, I am sad. You say, mon balo ne, which means my mind or my heart is not well. The language separates your core identity from your temporary physical or emotional states.
That is incredibly healthy from a psychological standpoint. And it seems like this idea of externalizing things, of creating intentional space between the speaker and the subject, is a recurring theme here.
It really is.
Which makes me wonder how this applies to people. Like, does Bengali create that same kind of intentional space when you're talking directly to someone else?
It absolutely does, and this is arguably the most crucial cultural element a beginner needs to grasp. The language doesn't just have one word for you. It has three distinct tiers of you.
3 tiers.
Yeah, and the one you choose instantly dictates the entire social dynamic of the interaction.
Okay, so it's not just a one-size-fits-all pronoun. It feels like it's almost like having different zoom lenses on a camera.
Oh, I like that.
Right, because each word instantly adjusts the social distance between the speakers. You can zoom way out for formal distance or zoom right in for extreme intimacy.
I really like that camera lens analogy. Let's look at how you use those lenses. First, you have the wide-angle lens, which is apne.
Apne.
Right. This is the highly respectful, formal you. You use this for elders, for strangers on the street, for your teachers, or really anyone in a position of authority. It establishes a polite, respectful boundary.
Okay, so apne is for formal respect. What if I want to zoom in a little bit?
Yeah.
What's the standard portrait lens?
That would be to me. This is the familiar, friendly you. You use this with your peers, your colleagues, and friends you are on equal footing with. It drops the formal boundary but maintains mutual respect.
Got it. And the macro lens, the extreme close-up.
That is tui. This is the highly intimate, sometimes risky you. Yeah, you only use this for your absolute best friends, younger siblings, or when you are affectionately teasing someone very close to you.
Wait, what do you mean risky? Like, what happens if I am at a market in Dhaka, I walk up to an elderly vendor, and my brain freezes, and I use the extreme close-up tui? Am I getting chased out of the market?
Well, you would certainly cause some drop jaws. Using tui with an elder or a stranger is a classic beginner blunder, and it comes across as wildly inappropriate.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's seen as overly familiar or even actively disrespectful. The social hierarchy is just deeply encoded in those pronouns.
Okay, note to self. So how do I avoid offending everyone while I'm still learning?
The golden rule for beginners is really simple. If you are ever in doubt, lock your camera on the wide-angle lens. Always default to apne.
Just play it safe.
Exactly. It is impossible to offend someone by being too respectful. If they want to be more casual with you, they'll invite you to use tumi. But starting with apne guarantees you are always polite.
That is a huge relief. Better to accidentally call the guy selling me mangoes, sir, than accidentally call him my teasing little brother.
Exactly. And that underlying current of respect extends well beyond pronouns into how people physically greet each other, too. A greeting in Bengali culture is rarely just a tossed-off word while you keep walking.
It's more intentional than that.
Much more. It's a moment of connection, often accompanied by a genuine smile, eye contact, and a slight bow of the head.
Are there different greetings based on those social dynamics as well? Like the zoom lenses?
Yes, context matters immensely there too. You will hear namaskar, which is a traditional, highly respectful greeting, often accompanied by pressing the palms together.
Okay, namaskar.
Right. You'll also frequently hear assalamu alaikum, which is widely used to offer peace, especially within the large Muslim population in Bengal. And then, for very informal situations with peers, English is actually blended in a bit, so you can simply say hello.
It's just fascinating how the language is a mirror, reflecting the culture's values. And you see that depth everywhere. The materials mention that Bengali is the language of Rabindranath Tagore, right?
Yes, the first non-European to win the Nobel Prize in literature.
Exactly. So this isn't just a language of commerce. It's a language built for poetry and deep emotional resonance.
It really is a profoundly literary culture. But, having all this theoretical knowledge about pronouns and poetry is one thing. If you actually want to use the language, you have to practice the physical application.
Okay, I am game. Let's test this in real time. I've got my coffee mug sitting right here on the desk. Let's imagine I am a tourist. I'm using my safe, polite apne distance, and you are a vendor at a street stall.
That sounds good.
I want to buy this mug or, maybe order a tea. How do I actually do that without freezing up?
All right, let's run a quick transaction. You want a cup of tea? Just remember your vocabulary and use your polite framing.
All right, stepping up to the stall. Ek cup cha den. Doyakur.
Doshtaka.
Oh, wait, I also want this imaginary pastry over here. Itekoto.
That is also doshtaka.
Okay, I actually understood that. Let's break down the mechanics of what just happened. I asked for the tea first.
Yes, you said ik cup cha den, doyakur. Please give 1 cup of tea. Ik is the number 1, and cha is tea. But the most crucial part of that sentence for a beginner was your modifier at the very end.
Doyakur.
Right.
Which means please.
Correct. Literally doing kindness. Appending doya core to request instantly smooths over any clumsy grammatical mistakes you might make. It signals that you are trying, and it adds immediate warmth to the interaction.
And then you responded by charging me dosh taka, 10 taka, with taka being the currency.
Yes, and when you pointed at your imaginary pastry, you asked ita koto, meaning how much is this?
You know, doing that out loud, I realize how incredibly modular the language is once you have a base frame. Like if I know the phrase, I want something, which is ami something chai, I can just plug in the numbers. If I memorize eek for 1, dui for 2, tin for 3, I can just say, ami dui cha chai. I want 2 teas. Ami tin cha chai. I want 3 teas. It's totally plug and play.
It is incredibly empowering, and that modularity is the key to one of the most important pieces of advice for anyone starting out. Do not try to memorize a dictionary.
Oh, yeah. That sounds awful.
A really common pitfall is trying to force-feed yourself 100 new vocabulary words a day.
That just sounds like a fast track to giving up by Tuesday.
It absolutely is. The recommendation is to learn just 5 to 10 words a day. But the trick is to integrate those words into your immediate physical reality. You want to bypass rote memorization entirely.
This is where the sticky note method comes in, right?
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
If you are sitting at your desk right now listening to us, look at your door, put a sticky note on it that says Narja.
Dorja.
Look at your shoes by the entryway, put a note on them that says Judo. When you tie the vocabulary to the physical objects you interact with daily, it becomes ambient knowledge. You aren't studying, you're just living in a bilingual environment.
I love that. And beyond sticky notes, the guide strongly recommends using music and cinema to absorb the rhythm of the language. It suggests listening to classic Bengali songs like Airat Tomar Amar.
Which is a beautiful suggestion. If we go back to the mechanics of the sweetness we discussed earlier, the aspiration, the undulating tone, you can't truly learn that from reading a page.
You have to hear it.
Right. Listening to music allows you to stop analyzing the grammar and start feeling the emotional flow of the language. It shifts the learning process from an academic chore to a sensory experience.
It makes the language feel alive. And really, I think that is the ultimate takeaway from this approach. Learning Bengali isn't a sprint where you try to cram a textbook in your head before a vacation. It's a slow, deeply rewarding marathon that you can run in tiny 5-minute increments every single day.
You can practice counting your steps from eek to dosh while walking to your car. You can consciously swap out your usual English greeting for a warm namaskar or assalamu alaikum when you see a friend. It's these small, consistent daily integrations that build genuine fluency over time.
We really have to congratulate the author, MD Abdullah Shanto. Creating a language guide that strips away the intimidation factor and replaces it with this level of accessibility and cultural warmth is a massive accomplishment.
It truly is an invaluable resource for anyone who wants to stop being an outside observer and actually connect with Bengali culture on a human level.
And for you listening right now, we want to make sure you do not lose this momentum. Stop what you are doing, look at the video description right now, and click the link we have provided. It will take you directly to Google Playbooks, where you can get your copy of the full book, Easily Learn Bengali, a beginner's friendly guide. Go grab it, start your sticky note collection, and continue this learning journey today.
I highly recommend picking it up. You won't regret it.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talked earlier about how Bengali structures its relationship to human emotion. The way a speaker says, "my hunger has come," or "my heart is not well," instead of identifying as the emotion itself.
Right, the linguistic separation of identity and feeling.
Exactly. So here is the question for you to consider. If the language we speak genuinely shapes the way we construct our reality, how might viewing our darkest emotions and our most urgent needs as temporary, passing visitors rather than permanent, defining states of being, fundamentally change the relationship we have with ourselves?
That is a profound concept to walk away with, a language that essentially teaches you that sadness is just a traveler passing through your heart.
It is a really beautiful way to see the world. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. As they say in Bengali, to wish someone a safe and happy journey.
It's been a pleasure.
Shubho Jatra.